Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to embark on a pretty incredible 10,000-year journey right through the ancient Near East and Anatolia. We're literally tracing the footsteps of human civilization, from the very dawn of monumental architecture all the way up to the sophisticated global maps that kind of define the early modern world.
But before we actually jump back in time, I want you to ask yourself something. What do the first peace treaty, the oldest backgammon board, and, well, the original, incredibly severe, overdue library book warning all have in common? Sounds like a setup for a joke, right? But honestly, even though they span thousands of years, these highly relatable, deeply human moments all originate from the exact same foundational cradle of civilization. We're looking at the true birthplace of modern human society.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our visual roadmap of this vast history, organized into 5 digestible eras. First, we've got the first monuments. Second, the evolution of the city. Third, the first peace treaty. Fourth, the first universal library. And finally, mapping the ancient world.
All right, let's start right at the beginning with Section 1, the first monuments, specifically Göbekli Tepe and the dawn of rituals.
So, I want you to try and imagine stepping back in time exactly 11,500 years ago. Right in Upper Mesopotamia, groups of hunter-gatherers achieved something absolutely monumental. I mean, way before the invention of the wheel or even pottery, they somehow managed to erect these massive T-shaped limestone pillars. And we're talking big. Some of these stones were up to 5.5 meters tall and intricately carved with these really striking images of wild animals. These megalithic enclosures at Göbekli Tepe, they were most likely used as gathering places for profound social events and early funerary rituals.
And what's crazy is that this momentous transition basically catalyzed a massive shift in human history. Think about the sheer physical and, organizational effort required to gather for these massive rituals. It was that exact effort at sites like Göbekli Tepe that actually pushed humanity away from a mobile foraging lifestyle right into creating the earliest sedentary farming communities.
So, as these early farmers settled down, society obviously got a lot more complex. That brings us to Section 2, Evolution of the city, moving from Çatalhöyük to urban Mesopotamia.
Now, Çatalhöyük, thriving in Anatolia between 7400 and 6200 BCE, this place represents a truly unique, egalitarian early urban design. Get this, there were literally no streets. No way, right? Instead, the houses were clustered really tightly together, back to back, and people actually moved around and accessed their homes directly through the roofs. It's like a giant puzzle. And this ingenious urban agglomeration was successfully maintained by its people in that exact same location for over 2,000 years. Fast forward a bit, and as these initial settlements evolved into massive Mesopotamian cities like and Nippur around 4,000 years ago, job specialization just absolutely exploded. Daily city life was incredibly diverse. The whole operation relied on a massive workforce doing, everything. From digging vital irrigation canals and making countless mud bricks, to firing pottery, smelting metals, and managing complex religious cults. Oh, and the textile industry was staggering. Historical tablets show that up to 15,000 women were actively weaving garments in just one single region. To put that into perspective, that's the size of a small modern town, just weaving.
But amidst all this grand urban development, there's this brilliantly relatable detail. We actually have ancient Mesopotamian bricks showing the misplaced footsteps of wandering dogs, right next to the curses of frustrated ancient brickmakers whose wet cement was totally ruined. I mean, some things never change, and while waiting around on duty, bored builders would literally scratch the outlines of a race game, something very similar to modern backgammon, right into the baked bricks just to pass the time at work. Human nature for sure.
What's really interesting here, though, is the undeniable proof that complex commerce existed millennia ago. Take the shekel. It was a unit of weight, specifically 8.4 grams of silver. As far back as 4,500 years ago, everyday laborers earned a wage. Usually it was about a quarter shekel a week, which was basically the amount of grain needed to feed a family. So wage labor, abstract money, economic valuation, all of that was driving city life long before actual coins were ever even a thought.
Okay, let's pull back from the bustling city streets for a moment. Section 3, the first peace treaty. We're looking at diplomacy at the Battle of Kadesh.
Just to orient ourselves chronologically here, we've seen the ancient rituals of Göbekli Tepe and those crazy roof-walking streets of Çatalhöyük. Now we're landing right here in 1274 BCE to see where the monumental Battle of Kadesh sits in our grand narrative arc.
And here we find a classic historical contradiction. In 1274 BCE, over in the region of Syria, Pharaoh Ramesses II of Egypt clashed head-on with King Muwatalli II of the Hittite Empire. This was a colossal military engagement between two ancient superpowers. The result? Well, a massive military stalemate. Both empires independently retreated, and, this is the funny part, both of them claimed absolute, total victory over the other in their own official records.
So, what does this all mean? The absolutely crucial point is what happened next. Because neither side could conclusively conquer the other, they were essentially forced to negotiate. Written in the Akkadian language in 1269 BCE, the Treaty of Kadesh was struck between the Egyptians and the Hittites. This massive, bloody battle ultimately led to a groundbreaking milestone, the establishment of the world's very first known international peace treaty, a real game-changer.
As these great empires rose, fought, and eventually fell, preserving their vast history became absolutely paramount. That brings us to Section 4, the First Universal Library and Preserving a Past in Nineveh.
I really want you to let this staggering number sink in for a second. 30,000. That is the number of clay cuneiform tablets discovered buried in the ruins of ancient Nineveh. They were systematically amassed in the 7th century BCE by the Neo-Assyrian king Ashurbanipal, and his goal was completely unprecedented. He wanted to create a universally comprehensive archive of literally all the human knowledge that existed in his world.
And let me tell you, Ashurbanipal's scribes were fiercely protective of this collection. Read this intense curse found on a fragment of the Babylonian poem, The Poor Man of Nippur, which was discovered right in the library. Whoever takes away this tablet, may the gods take him away. May he have no descendants, no offspring. Do not take away the tablets. Honestly, I know some modern librarians who'd probably love to stamp that exact warning on their overdue books today.
This collection was incredibly diverse, by the way. It housed everything from divination omens meant to guide state affairs, to medical botany, to epic literature, like the famous Epic of Gilgamesh. Ashurbanipal systematically organized these texts, as his own colophon stated, for the sake of distant days. And, ironically, when Nineveh was violently sacked and burned by a coalition in 612 BCE, those blazing fires actually baked the clay tablets hard. They inadvertently preserved Mesopotamian history perfectly in the ruins.
Which leads us seamlessly into our final era, Section 5, Mapping the Ancient World. Let's look at European cartographers and the Ottoman world.
This brilliantly illustrates how the map of the world was actively stitched together over centuries. Between the 16th and 18th centuries, cartographers took incredibly diverse sets of data and synthesized them. They combined ancient Greek geographical coordinates from Ptolemy, highly practical maritime portolan charts for Mediterranean sailors, and incredibly accurate Ottoman geographical consciousness, like the detailed coordinates of Abu al-Fida. They brought all this together to finally map the historical region accurately.
These maps were in every sense living documents. European maps of the Ottoman Empire were continuously updated. Direct, first-hand accounts from intrepid travelers visiting Cairo, Damascus, and Istanbul just kept pouring in, constantly refining the borders in the cities. It was this relentless human curiosity, this unyielding desire to travel, that finally connected the ancient world's geography with the modern era that we know today.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought. We've journeyed all the way from the monumental limestone pillars of Göbekli Tepe to the scratched game boards of frustrated ancient brick makers. As we continue to map our modern world today with advanced satellites and endless data, what seemingly mundane details of your daily routine will end up absolutely fascinating the archaeologists of the year 12,000? Think about that. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next explainer.